It's the kind of thing that makes you glad you stopped to smell the pine trees along the way. It's rare to find a game that changes everything. We've seen S-tier masterpieces like God of War, Elden Ring, Hollow Knight, but every once in a while you find a game that does more than entertain. A game that lingers in your mind long after the credits roll. A game that genuinely changes you. The kind of game that you can only play once. Outer Wilds doesn't just tell a story, it makes you feel it. It shifts how you think about humanity, time, and the inevitable end that we all face. It teaches you to embrace the unknown, not with fear, but with curiosity. After you've played Outer Wilds, you'll never look at a campfire, or your friends, the same way again. It starts with you waking up next to a campfire, with Slate reminding you to grab the launch codes from Hornfells before we can take off. The tutorial area teaches you the basics, how to fly, how to use your tools, and naturally, I did what any seasoned gamer would do. I ignored half of it and I speedran my way to Hornfells for the launch codes. Our ships are every bit as safe as Slate could be persuaded to make them. I would like to select a new planet now. I would like to select that planet. Oh, this is great. That's great. Oh. 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 Yeah, that went about as well as you'd expect. The ship was ready, the universe was open, and the game simply said go. And at first, I didn't get it. I aimlessly drifted between planets, picking up little scraps of Nomai writing, half of which I barely understood. There were no cutscenes, no character dialogue trees, no quest log telling me where to go. Just space, the realization that every 20 minutes you had to start the game over, and the realization that autopilot is actually trying to kill you. And I almost put the game down. The first planet that I investigated was Giant's Deep. It was the first clue of where I should go because at the start of each loop we can see something exploding in orbit around the planet. See, right at that moment, that was the moment. That right there, because that's where we were. The Nomai were an ancient race of scientists who left writings behind on all of the planets across the galaxy. I think part of the reason that this game was so hard to get engaged with at first for me was it took me about a dozen hours or so to realize the importance of these writings. In most games, writings and notes like this are a way to experience the deeper lore but not necessarily the story. But for Outer Wilds, this is the story. And here on Giant's Deep, the writings pointed to the purpose of the thing that I saw exploding, the whole reason I started at Giant's Deep in the first place. It was something that they called the orbital probe cannon. This is it. We finished building the final orbital probe cannon module and are ready to send it into orbit around Giant's Deep for assembly. If I know my brother, Avens and his spouse will want to launch the probe with as much power as possible. I'm worried the cannon would break under the strain. The Nomai were using the orbital probe cannon to try to find something that they called the Eye of the Universe. In a way, this was the god of the Nomai people, but they pushed the probe beyond its limit. Exploring the wreckage of the orbital probe cannon, I realized that it told a story without words. A story that told of desperation, failure, and a dream that had cost them everything. The weird statue from the beginning of the game was part of what they called the Ash Twin Project. It was a device that would send memories back in time so that if the Ash Twin Project malfunctioned, a Nomai connected to the device would be able to have the knowledge to fix it. And somehow we managed to become connected to the device. That's the reason for the time loop. This was the moment that changed everything about the way I looked at the game. Theory time. Whatever the Ash Twin Project is, it caused the destruction of the star. And this is their way, the time loop is their way of backing up the situation. So we solved, we figured this is their backup plan. So now it's our responsibility to figure out how to save the universe. I finally had a purpose. I finally understood what I was doing in the game. If I could stop the Ash Twin Project from malfunctioning, if I could fix it, I could end the time loop, and I could save everyone. Clearly, the next piece of information I needed lied with the Ash Twin Project, which Lucky for me, there's a place on the map that's literally called Ash Twin, so that's where I headed next. At the start of my next loop, there wasn't really anything to find on Ash Twin, so I figured I would explore Ember Twin, which is this planet that's connected to Ash Twin. They're called the Hourglass Twins. The dynamic between these two planets is actually absolutely fascinating. As time goes on through the loop, the sand leaves Ash Twin and goes to Ember Twin, but I didn't realize that yet. Deep below the surface of Ember Twin, I found the abandoned Nomai city that's called the Sunless City. Whoa! Where am I? We're gonna run out of oxygen. Go to the trees? Where are the trees? Trees! I couldn't get the last one. F. This was a city built out of necessity. They hadn't planned to settle here, but they were forced to when their vessel crashed here. With no way to leave, they carved a home into the rock, underground, safe from the brutal heat of Ember Twin's proximity to the sun. Unlike the lab on Giant's Deep, these Nomai weren't explorers, they were survivors. The Sunless City was once full of life. Every tunnel, every desperate note left on the walls, it told the same story. They were racing against time, and so was I. Every loop, the sand flooded back in, and I had to race to read as much as I could before the sand erased their city. I felt like I was watching their hope be buried all over again, every single loop, as I would sprint through the collapsing tunnels, desperate to learn just a little bit more before all was lost again. The Sunless City wasn't abandoned. It was surrendered to the sand. Standing there with the sand slowly burying their houses and forgotten technology, it was the first time that I understood. Even the greatest dreams can sink into silence. The Nomai didn't lose because they gave up. They lost because sometimes trying your best still is not enough. The final part of the Sunless City that I investigated was the High Energy Lab. The High Energy Lab taught us about teleportation, using these black and white holes you see here. These teleporters were able to move things through time and space. They were looking for a way to harness more energy to send things back in time by 22 minutes. Sound familiar? That's our 22-minute time loop for the game. The Southern Observatory is asking if creating a 22-minute interval is possible. That is, to have something arrive 22 minutes before it is sent through the warp. My brother in Christ. We've learned the negative interval of time between the departure and arrival can be increased by adding more energy to the warp core. Problematically, the energy required to extend the interval increases at an exponential rate. Hypothesis: creating a 22-minute interval is possible, but we are currently unable to generate the necessary energy. They left behind writings explaining the teleportation towers and showing us how they work. Is that the sun? There's a tower to teleport to the sun. That's what we need to do right now. Armed with this knowledge, we found the teleporter to the sun station. The sun station was the Nomai's last hope. They needed more power for the Ash Twin project that I still didn't really know the purpose of, other than it was to send memories back in time. Their plan was simple and catastrophic. If they couldn't power the Ash Twin project on their own, they would force the sun to explode. Mission: science compels us to explode the sun. Oh, Pi, what have you done? A gamble at cosmic scale. Reading the writings left behind, I realized that it didn't work. They risked everything: their lives, their system, their future, for nothing. The notes left here told a story of confusion, regret, and acceptance. Star has reached the end of natural life cycle, now approaching red giant stage. Evacuate sun station. Standing there with the sun just beyond the crumbling walls, I realized that the end wasn't a mistake. It wasn't sabotage. There was nothing that I could fix or do to solve this problem. It just happened that the natural end of the sun's life cycle was combining with the technology that the Nomai set up to send us through the time loop. This wasn't something that I was going to be able to fix to save my friends. I had to find the Ash Twin project. It was my last hope to put an end to the cycle
and figure out what was happening to me and my friends and maybe find a way to save us.
On Ash Twin, there's actually a fourth tower, and I'd originally written off because it's broken, so I explored the first 3, and then I decided to experiment with the fourth. I let the curiosity get the best of me. As sand passed over the platform, I stepped onto it, and found myself teleported inside the Ash Twin project. This was the core of everything the story was about. This was the core of everything the Nomai were seeking to do. The orbital probe cannon earlier would only have one chance to fire, and they could pick a random direction to try to find the eye of the universe that they were seeking. The purpose of the Ash Twin project was to store memories inside of it and send them back in time. This way, they could have as many attempts as they needed to pick a different direction to launch the orbital probe cannon until they eventually found the eye of the universe. The reason to need to blow up the sun was to provide enough energy to send the memories back in time as far as they possibly could. But, as we discovered on the sun station, it didn't work. Something had gone wrong. Their civilization vanished, leaving the Ash Twin project running unattended, caught in an endless loop with no one left to save. But somehow, we'd become linked to it. I wasn't part of their plan, but I was the last echo, the last witness, the last traveler carrying their memory forward. Somehow this was the answer. Here I found the warp core at the center of the project, and I knew that I had to take it back to the vessel, a ship that they had built to find the eye of the universe. Dark Bramble is where we would find the vessel. I followed the signal, the faint, pulsing echo left behind by the broken ship.
These guys freak me out so much.
I threaded my way past the giant anglerfish and through the tunnels until I found the black heart of Dark Bramble, the Nomai vessel.
Start by taking the warp core, and then I decided to just go to the vessel because I wouldn't have time. I don't have time to explore right now. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to explore it, so we just started that way. Okay, now what does this mean? Does it have anything to do with the picture that I took?
Entering the coordinates that I discovered earlier, the ship jumped to life and carried us to a new place, to the eye of the universe.
Okay, that one was right, yeah?
Oh!
Whoa. Look at all the solar systems. I just finished the game today. It's so beautiful. I love seeing authentic people streaming this game. Aw, no. It just went away. And now that one went away. They're all dying. There it goes. They're all going away.
Walking through the fading suns, I came to a campfire, and
It's a
one by
campfire.
one gathered my friends around the fire.
Whoa. There's a... Can I sit down? Hey, brother. Esker? Do you hear music? Nope. No, I don't. Is that a hint to pull this out? Look, I found a way in. Alright, let's grab bro's harmonica. It's always dark. Aww. Jeez Louise. I'll get there. Let's go get our boy. We gotta get our boy.
This is why, somebody was suggesting emote only mode.
Wait, it's just Solanum's mask. Okay, so it all has to do with this. Oh, I can just gather it that way? Alright. I did not think that that would be a thing. Now we've got everybody. Hey, buddy. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. A conscious observer has entered the eye. I wonder what happens now. This song is new to me, but I'm honored to be part of it. Go for it, yeah. Roasting marshmallows with all our friends. How long has it been since I got to make music with everyone around a campfire? Even if it's over, I had a good time learning. I learned a lot by the end. The past is past, but that's okay. It's never really gone. The future's built on the past, even if we don't get to see it. I believe we've reached the end. All that remains is to collapse the innumerable possibilities before us. Are you ready to learn what comes next? I admire your curiosity, friend. Let's find out together. I tell you what, this has been fun. And I got to help make something pretty cool, so I've got no complaints. I mean, not me exactly, but close enough. It's the kind of thing that makes you glad you stopped and smelled the pine trees along the way. You cut it a little close, don't you think? It worked out all right in the end, I suppose. And I hope we're besties in the next one. It makes you glad you stopped to smell the pine trees along the way.
I thought this game was about stopping the sun from exploding, or stopping the time loop. I thought it was about saving my friends. But in the end, it was about acceptance. Accepting that not everything can be fixed. Accepting that time moves forward. Accepting that even stars die. The eye didn't give me answers. It gave me peace. And when we sat around the final campfire, playing that one last song as the universe collapsed, I knew. You can't stop the end, but you don't have to face it alone.